Excluded from Christmas dinner, they still demanded my money. Then I discovered Grandpa left me the entire $80 million estate they were fighting over. Welcome, family. If this story touches your heart, show some love by subscribing and letting us know where you're watching from. Now let's go on with the story. The text arrived at 11:47 p.m. on December 20th. My sister Brianna's message was brief, clinical. Christmas dinner at Mom's. 2 p.m. Don't bring anything. I stared at those words, waiting for the follow-up, the part where she'd ask if I could come if I had plans. Nothing. Just a cold notification, like I was someone they had to inform out of obligation rather than desire. I screenshot it and sent it to my best friend Tasha. Girl, did they just uninvite me in the most passive-aggressive way possible? 3 dots appeared immediately. Wait, that's not even an invitation. That's a statement. Are you supposed to just show up or what? That was the question, wasn't it? For 32 years, I'd been navigating my family's mixed signals like a minefield. Show up unannounced and I'm intrusive. Wait for a proper invitation and I'm distant. There was no winning with the Johnsons. My mother, Lucinda, had perfected the art of making me feel simultaneously invisible and burdensome. My siblings, Brianna, Nathan, and Deshawn, had learned from the master. But this felt different. Colder. More calculated. I scrolled up through our family group chat, the one I'd been mysteriously removed from 3 weeks ago. I'd noticed but hadn't said anything. Pride wouldn't let me beg to be included in conversations where I clearly wasn't wanted. Now that silence made sense. They'd been planning Christmas without me, and Brianna's text was a courtesy, not a connection. I called Grandpa Leonard that night. He was the only one who ever made me feel like I belonged. Pumpkin, his warm voice crackled through the phone. You sound troubled. I told him everything. He listened in that patient way of his, then said something that would haunt me later. Remember, baby girl, blood doesn't always mean family, and family doesn't always mean love. You decide who deserves your presence. Christmas morning arrived wrapped in ice and isolation. I'd barely slept, my mind replaying every family gathering where I'd felt like an outsider in my own bloodline. The memories came in flashes. Thanksgiving 3 years ago when they took family photos while I was in the bathroom, only showing me the pictures later with casual cruelty. My college graduation where my mother spent the entire lunch talking about Nathan's promotion. The time Brianna got engaged and waited 2 months to tell me after announcing it to cousins I barely knew. Tasha called at 9 a.m. You going? I was sitting on my couch in pajamas, my nicest dress still hanging in the closet, mocking my indecision. I don't know. Part of me wants to show up just to see their faces. Another part wants to stay home and pretend I'm above this dysfunction. What did your grandpa say? Tasha knew Leonard was my North Star, the only Johnson who'd never made me feel deficient. He said I should decide who deserves my presence. But what does that even mean? They're my family, Tesh. I can't just stop showing up to holidays. She was quiet for a moment. Can't you though? When have they ever showed up for you? The question landed like a punch. I thought about my mother missing my graduate school acceptance celebration because Brianna needed help picking out curtains. Deshawn forgetting my birthday 3 years running but never missing Nathan's. The constant criticism dressed up as concern. My hair, my career choices, my decision to stay single, my weight, my clothes, my ambitions. Come to my family's dinner, Tasha offered. My mama already set a place for you just in case. We're eating at 4. I felt tears prick my eyes. Her mother barely knew me, yet she'd thought to include me. My own family couldn't manage a proper invitation. Let me see how I feel at 1:30, I told her, knowing I was probably going to my mother's house. Hope was a terrible addiction and I was still using. I arrived at 2:17 p.m., fashionably late by accident rather than design. Traffic had been brutal and I'd changed outfits 4 times, seeking armor in cashmere and confidence. My mother's house looked like a Christmas catalog explosion. Lights perfectly synchronized, wreaths symmetrical, not a snowflake decoration out of place. Even her holiday aesthetic was a performance of perfection. Nathan opened the door, looking past me rather than at me. Oh. You came. Not, Merry Christmas, or good to see you. Just mild surprise, like I was an unexpected package delivery. I stepped inside, my heels clicking against marble floors, and the noise in the dining room dimmed to whispers. 7 faces turned toward me with expressions ranging from surprise to irritation. My mother's lips pursed. Brianna exchanged a look with her fiancé, Trevor, that I couldn't quite read. Deshaun didn't even look up from his phone. "Merry Christmas," I said, forcing cheer into my voice, holding up the expensive wine I'd brought despite Brianna's text. My mother's eyes flicked to the bottle, a $70 Bordeaux I'd researched specifically to impress her, then back to my face with unconcealed disappointment. "We already opened wine, Jasmine. You should have called ahead. Called ahead to Christmas dinner. With my own family. The absurdity would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much." I noticed the dining table, then really noticed it. 8 place settings. 8. I counted silently. Mom, Brianna, Trevor, Nathan, his girlfriend Jessica, Deshaun, his wife Aisha, and a setting I didn't recognize. No 9th plate. No space for me. "Oh," my mother said, following my gaze with theatrical surprise. "We didn't think you were coming. Brianna said the text was just to inform you we were having dinner, not that you were invited." The room tilted. My sister had sent me a message about Christmas dinner to specifically tell me I wasn't invited. I looked at Brianna, who had the decency to look away. "That's not," I started. "That's not what the text said." "Well, regardless," my mother continued smoothly, already moving toward the kitchen with the dismissive wave that had punctuated my entire childhood. "We're about to sit down. There's a coffee shop 2 blocks away if you want to wait. We should be done by 5 or so. Then we can have a quick visit before you head home." She wanted me to sit in a coffee shop for 3 hours on Christmas Day while my family ate dinner. Without me. The message was unmistakable. "You're not welcome at the table." Trevor, Brianna's fiancé, shifted uncomfortably. He was new to the family dynamic, only 8 months into this dysfunction. "We can squeeze in another chair, Lucinda. It's Christmas." Bless him. He didn't know yet that logic and kindness didn't penetrate my mother's carefully constructed hierarchies. "The table's already crowded, Trevor," my mother said with finality. "Besides, that 8th seat is for Reverend Matthews. He's joining us for dinner." Reverend Matthews. The pastor of the church my family attended, the one where my mother performed her weekly show of piety and generosity. He was coming to Christmas dinner, taking the seat that should have been mine. I felt something crack inside my chest, not dramatically but quietly, like ice forming over a pond. "I'll just go," I heard myself say. My voice sounded distant, like it was coming from underwater. "Before you do," Nathan said, and there was something in his tone that made my stomach drop, "we need to discuss Grandpa Leonard." I froze. My grandfather. The man I'd spoken to just days ago. What about him? Nathan and Brianna exchanged another look, this one loaded with meaning I couldn't decode. "His medical bills," Nathan said. "They're substantial. We're all chipping in to help cover his care facility costs. We need to know what you can contribute monthly." The room felt suddenly airless. They were asking me for money while literally excluding me from Christmas dinner. The cognitive dissonance was staggering. "His Medicare doesn't cover everything," Brianna added, pulling out her phone with spreadsheet efficiency. She'd always been the organized one, the responsible daughter, the one my mother praised constantly. "The facility he's in costs $12,000 a month. We've divided it based on income brackets. Your portion would be $1,800 monthly." She said it like she was reading a grocery list, casual and matter-of-fact. $1,800 a month. From the daughter who wasn't welcome at Christmas dinner. "Wait," I said, my brain struggling to process this ambush. "Grandpa Leonard told me his finances were handled. He said his retirement and investments covered everything." Deshaun scoffed, finally looking up from his phone. "Of course he'd tell you that. He never wants to burden anyone, especially not his precious Jasmine." The sarcasm in his voice was toxic. "The reality is different. We've been paying for months while you've been living your comfortable single life downtown with no responsibilities." That stung because it was designed to. I lived in a modest 1-bedroom apartment I could barely afford on my nonprofit salary. I drove a 10-year-old Honda. I hadn't taken a vacation in 3 years. But in my family's narrative, I was the selfish one because I'd chosen purpose over profit, community organizing over corporate climbing. I need to talk to Grandpa about this, I said. I spoke to him last week and he didn't mention any financial struggles. He doesn't want to worry you, my mother interjected, her voice dripping with the false sweetness she used when she wanted something. You know how proud he is. But we're family, Jasmine. We take care of our own. Even when it's inconvenient. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. They took care of their own except when it meant setting an extra place at dinner. They were family except when it meant including me in group chats and photos and basic human warmth. Send me the facility information, I said quietly. I'll contact them directly and sort out what's needed. That wasn't the answer they wanted. I could see it in their faces. It's easier if we handle it centrally, Nathan said quickly, too quickly. He was hiding something. I'd known my brother for 32 years and I knew his tells. The way he rubbed his jaw when he was lying. The way he avoided eye contact when he was manipulating. We have a family account set up. Everyone contributes to it and we manage the payments. A family account, I repeated. The family I'm not invited to have Christmas dinner with has a family account they expect me to pay into? Reverend Matthews chose that moment to arrive, ringing the doorbell with unfortunate timing. My mother rushed to answer it, greeting him with warmth she'd never shown me, ushering him to the seat that could have been mine. Merry Christmas, everyone. Sister Lucinda, everything smells wonderful. I stood there, invisible again, while my family performed their holiday charade for the Reverend. Trevor was the only one who seemed disturbed by what was happening. This doesn't feel right, he whispered to Brianna, loud enough for me to hear. She shushed him with a sharp look. Not now. I pulled out my phone and texted Grandpa Leonard, having Christmas with the family. They mentioned medical bills and facility costs. Are you okay? Do you need help? I watched the 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. His response made my blood run cold. I'm fine, Pumpkin. Medicare and my savings have me covered completely. I don't know what they're talking about. Call me later. They were lying. My entire family was lying to extract money from me while excluding me from their lives. I looked up from my phone to find them all seated now, Reverend Matthews blessing the food, my mother's head bowed in performative prayer. The scene was so perfectly staged, so completely hollow. I took a photo, my hands shaking, knowing I'd need evidence later of this moment, this cruelty. They chorused. I walked to the dining room entrance, my presence finally acknowledged by Nathan. Are you still here? I thought you were leaving. I smiled and it felt like glass cutting my face. I'm leaving. But we're going to have a conversation about this family account very soon. After I verify Grandpa's actual situation. I called Grandpa Leonard from my car, sitting in my mother's driveway, watching through windows as my family laughed and ate and celebrated without me. He answered on the first ring. Talk to me, Pumpkin. What's happening? I told him everything. The text, the missing place setting, Reverend Matthews, the demand for money, their claims about his finances. The line went quiet for so long I thought we'd disconnected. Those fools, he finally said, and I'd never heard him sound so tired, so disappointed. Jasmine, listen carefully. I'm going to tell you something I've kept private, but you need to know. I'm sick, baby girl. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. The doctors give me 3, maybe 4 months. The world stopped. My grandfather, my only anchor in this family, was dying. Grandpa, my voice broke. He continued gently, I've known for 6 weeks. I told your mother, your siblings, made them promise not to burden you with it during the holidays. I wanted you to have one more happy Christmas before the hard times came. But they'd stolen that from me anyway. They'd known he was dying and used it as leverage to extract money. My medical care is completely covered, Jasmine. Medicare, supplemental insurance, and my savings. I've been very fortunate. Whatever they're telling you about facility costs is fabricated. I'm in my own home with hospice care. I pay nothing out of pocket. The betrayal was so profound I couldn't speak. There's more, he said. I need you to come see me tomorrow. There are things we need to discuss. Legal things. About my estate. I drove to Tasha's parents' house in a daze. Her mother, Miss Lorraine, took one look at my face and pulled me into her arms. This woman who barely knew me offering more maternal comfort in 30 seconds than my own mother had in 32 years. Baby, what happened? I told them, surrounded by Tasha's 3 siblings, her grandmother, her uncle Fabian, her cousin Kennedy. Strangers, really, but they listened with genuine outrage and compassion. They're scamming you, Uncle Fabian said bluntly. He was a retired accountant, sharp-eyed and direct. Classic financial manipulation. They create a crisis, make you feel obligated, collect money you can't track. I've seen it 1,000 times. Tasha was furious. We're going to your grandfather's tomorrow. All of us. You're not facing this alone. Grandpa Leonard's house smelled like lemon polish and old books, exactly as it always had. He looked smaller than I remembered, his skin papery, his movements careful. But his eyes were sharp, alive, furious. Come in, pumpkin. And you must be Tasha. Thank you for being here. He'd set up in his study, papers organized on his mahogany desk, his reading glasses perched on his nose. This was Leonard Johnson, retired federal judge, preparing his case. I'm going to tell you things your mother doesn't want you to know, he began. About family money, about manipulation, about who the Johnsons really are. He pulled out a folder thick with documents. My estate is worth approximately $80 million. Property, investments, stocks, bonds, life insurance policies. I've been very successful, very careful. Your grandmother and I built wealth deliberately to provide for our grandchildren's futures. $80 million. I'd never known. He'd lived modestly, driven old cars, shopped at regular stores. Your mother has been asking about inheritance for years, he continued. When I got sick, those questions became demands. She wanted me to divide the estate immediately. 60% to her, 40% split among you kids. She claimed it was for tax purposes. It was really to cut you out while I was too sick to fight. He showed me texts, emails, voicemails. My mother's desperation was stark, ugly. She'd been planning this for months. I told her no. I told her my will was sealed, my decisions final, and she'd find out the terms when I passed. She didn't like that. Tasha leaned forward. The money they're collecting in your name for medical expenses, where's it really going? Grandpa smiled grimly. Excellent question. I did some digging with my attorney's help. They've collected $63,000 so far, mostly from extended family and church members. None of it has gone to medical care. It's sitting in an account Nathan controls. My guess? They're building a war chest for the will contest they're planning. My hands were shaking. How did you find this out? He pulled out bank statements, account information that should have been private. I'm still Leonard fucking Johnson, baby girl. 30 years on the federal bench taught me how to investigate. I had my attorney subpoena Nathan's records under the pretense of estate planning verification. It's all legal, all documented. So what do we do? I asked. Grandpa's smile turned sharp, predatory. This was the judge who'd terrified defendants and crooked lawyers for 3 decades. We let them play their game. I've already rewritten my will. My attorney has the new version, sealed and filed. But your family doesn't know that. Let them collect their money. Let them plan their contest. Let them count chickens that will never hatch. He turned to me, his expression softening. Jasmine, in my new will you inherit everything. The entire estate. Every property, every account, every asset. I couldn't breathe. Grandpa, that's not, I don't need, they're still your family. He held up his hand. Let me finish. You inherit everything with one condition. You must use a portion of it to establish the Leonard Johnson Foundation, a non-profit focused on community development and education. You'll run it. It's your life's work, formalized, funded, protected. The rest is yours to live on, to build your life with, to never again feel dependent on people who treat you like garbage. What about Mom? Nathan? Brianna? Deshawn? The names felt strange in my mouth now, formal, distant. He shrugged. I'm leaving them each $1. Not nothing which could be contested as an oversight. $1. A clear, deliberate statement that I remember them and chose to give them exactly what they're worth to me after how they've treated you. Tasha laughed, a sharp bark of disbelief. Sir, that's savage. I love it. That's justice, Grandpa corrected. Your mother has been emotionally abusing Jasmine since she was old enough to have opinions that differed from Lucinda's golden vision. Your siblings learned that cruelty, perfected it, weaponized it. They made family gatherings a torture for this brilliant, kind woman because she refused to shrink herself to make them comfortable. Because she chose passion over profit, purpose over prestige. They don't deserve my legacy. Jasmine does. He coughed, a wet rattle that reminded us why we were here. I have maybe 10 weeks left. I want to spend them with you, Pumpkin. Really with you. No more family dinners where they make you feel small. Just us. Tell me about your work. Your dreams. Your life. We stayed until midnight, talking, laughing, crying. I told him about the community center I'd been trying to fund, the after-school programs I'd created, the kids I worked with. His eyes lit up. That's the Foundation's first project. Fully funded. You'll never have to beg for grants again. 3 days later my mother called. Jasmine, we need to talk about your contribution to the family account. You haven't responded to Brianna's Venmo request. I was in Grandpa's study, surrounded by estate documents, learning the full scope of what I was inheriting. Solar farms in 3 states. Commercial properties in 5 cities. A stock portfolio that made my head spin. I spoke to Grandpa, I said calmly, about his medical expenses. Or rather his lack thereof. The silence stretched like taffy. What did he tell you? Her voice had changed, harder, sharper. The truth. That he's fully covered. That you're collecting money under false pretenses. That you've raised $63,000 that has nothing to do with his care. I heard her breathing, calculating. He's confused, Jasmine. The cancer has spread to his brain. He doesn't remember things correctly. His brain is fine, Mom. His memory is perfect. His records are comprehensive. Want to try again? She switched tactics, her voice turning sweet, wounded. I can't believe you'd trust him over your own mother. After everything I've done for you, raising you, sacrificing. Stop, I interrupted. We're not doing this. The manipulation, the guilt trips, the revisionist history where you were some devoted mother instead of someone who made me feel inadequate every day of my life. How dare you? Lucinda's mask cracked completely. I gave you everything. Food, shelter, clothing, education. You ungrateful. You gave me the basics legally required of a parent, I said. You never gave me affection, approval, or acceptance. You never defended me when Brianna mocked me. You never stopped Nathan from bullying me. You never noticed when Deshawn excluded me. You created a family where I was the acceptable target. And now you're shocked I'm questioning your motives. She was breathing hard now, fury barely contained. Your grandfather's filling your head with lies. He's trying to turn you against us before he dies because he's bitter and lonely and scared. He's none of those things. He's clear-eyed about who his family really is. And so am I now. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful, clean, free. Tasha, who'd been sitting beside me the entire time, squeezed my hand. That was amazing. How do you feel? Terrified, I admitted. And liberated. My siblings launched a coordinated assault. Group texts I wasn't part of but heard about through Grandpa's sources. Social media posts about ungrateful family members who turned their backs during crisis. Nathan showed up at my apartment at 10 p.m., pounding on the door. I didn't answer. Brianna sent a 5-page email detailing every gift, every holiday, every family event, itemizing their love like a receipt I could be billed for. You owe us, she wrote. Family means sacrifice. Family means putting others first. You've always been selfish, always been difficult, but this is a new low. Abandoning Grandpa when he needs us most. The projection was stunning. They were the ones fabricating medical crises for profit. They were the ones who'd excluded me from Christmas. But I was the villain in their narrative. My mother went to their church, told Reverend Matthews I was having a mental breakdown, spreading vicious lies about Grandpa to avoid financial responsibility. The Reverend, to his credit, called me directly. Miss Johnson, your mother is very concerned. She says you're making wild accusations about family finances. Reverend, I respect you, but this is between me and my family. What I will say is this. You were at Christmas dinner. You saw there was no place set for me. You saw them exclude me, then ask me for money. Does that seem like loving family behavior? He was quiet. No, it doesn't. I've been troubled about that day. Trust your instincts, I told him. Pray about it. But don't believe everything my mother tells you. She's protecting her interests, not telling the truth. Grandpa declined rapidly those 2 weeks. I moved into his house, sleeping in the guest room, administering medications, reading to him, holding his hand through the hard nights. My family didn't visit. Not once. They called Grandpa's attorney instead, demanding to know the will's contents, threatening legal action, making increasingly desperate attempts to access information they had no right to. They're scared, Grandpa whispered one evening. They can feel the control slipping. Money does that to people. Shows you who they really are. I don't want it, I said suddenly. The money. It feels dirty now, tainted by everything they've done fighting over it. He squeezed my hand with surprising strength. That's exactly why you're the right person to have it. You understand money is just a tool. They see it as identity, as worth, as power. Leonard Johnson died on February 7th at 3:42 a.m. I was holding his hand, singing the old gospel hymns he loved, watching the dawn light creep through his bedroom window. His last words were, "Be brave, pumpkin. Be bold. Be happy." Then he was gone, slipping away gentle as a whisper. I called my family at 6 a.m. My mother answered with suspicion rather than grief. Yes. Just that. Just yes. Like I was a telemarketer. Grandpa passed this morning, I said. Peacefully. He wasn't alone. Where are you? She demanded. At his house. Where I've been for 2 weeks. Taking care of him. Which would have been obvious if any of you had bothered to visit. Silence. Then, we'll be there in an hour to begin arrangements. They showed up like vultures in expensive black, already performing grief for neighbors who might be watching. My mother swept past me without a word, heading straight for Grandpa's study. Where are his papers? His will. We need to contact his attorney immediately. His attorney will contact us, I said. There's a protocol for estate settlement. Nathan pushed past me, started opening desk drawers. We're his family. We have a right to know what he left, how it's divided. Deshawn was on his phone, already calling someone. Brianna stood in the doorway, crying real tears, and I almost felt sorry for her. She'd loved Grandpa too in her way. But love without respect, without presence, without sacrifice was just sentiment. The attorney, James Morrison, arrived at 10 a.m. with 3 associates and a briefcase that looked expensive enough to feed a family for a month. I'm here to read Leonard Johnson's last will and testament, per his instructions. All beneficiaries must be present. He looked around. Is this everyone? My mother nodded eagerly, already calculating divisions. Yes. His 4 grandchildren and myself, his daughter. His only child. Morrison opened his briefcase with deliberate slowness. The tension was suffocating. Let's begin. The will reading took 7 minutes to destroy my family. Morrison read in the dry, clinical tone of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. The preliminary statements, the declarations of sound mind, the revocation of all previous wills. Then, to my daughter Lucinda and Johnson, I leave the sum of $1, given with full knowledge and sound mind. My mother gasped. What? That's impossible. He promised. Please let me finish, Morrison said calmly. To my grandson Nathan Leonard Johnson, I leave the sum of $1. To my granddaughter Brianna Nicole Johnson, I leave the sum of $1. To my grandson Deshawn Michael Johnson, I leave the sum of $1. The entirety of my remaining estate, valued at approximately $80 million, including all properties, accounts, investments, and assets, I leave to my granddaughter Jasmine Marie Johnson, with the stipulation that she establish and direct the Leonard Johnson Foundation for Community Development. The screaming started immediately. My mother lunged at me. Morrison's associates stepped between us. Nathan was shouting about undue influence, dementia, legal action. Brianna was crying hysterically. Deshaun just stared at me with pure hatred. This is fraud, my mother shrieked. She manipulated him. She poisoned his mind against us. I'll contest this. I'll fight this until there's nothing left. You can try, Morrison said. But I should inform you that Mr. Johnson anticipated contest attempts. He had full psychiatric evaluations conducted. He documented his reasoning in video testimony. He detailed decades of emotional abuse perpetrated against Jasmine. He was very thorough. He turned to me. Miss Johnson, we need to discuss next steps privately. Perhaps somewhere away from. He gestured vaguely at my family's meltdown. I looked at them, my mother red-faced and screaming, my siblings calculating legal strategies, all of them seeing me not as a person but as an obstacle between them and money they'd never earned. I felt nothing. Not triumph, not vindication, not even anger. Just a profound, peaceful emptiness where family love should have been. I'll meet you at your office tomorrow, Mr. Morrison. I need to make arrangements for Grandpa's funeral first. There won't be a funeral, my mother spat. Not with you planning it. He was my father. And he left me in charge of his estate and his final arrangements, I said quietly. Which means you'll follow my decisions or you won't be welcome. I walked past them out of Grandpa's house for the last time. Tasha was waiting in her car. How bad? She asked. Nuclear, I said. Good, she said fiercely. They earned it. The Leonard Johnson Foundation opened its doors on a humid August morning. 3,000 square feet of space in the neighborhood where Grandpa grew up. Computer labs, tutoring rooms, art studios, a commercial kitchen for culinary classes. Everything I dreamed of, funded by the grandfather who'd loved me when my family couldn't. 80 kids enrolled in our summer programs. Parents cried thanking me for giving their children hope. I hired Tasha as operations director. She was brilliant at it. My family sued. Of course they did. The case was dismissed within weeks. Grandpa's documentation was airtight, his mental capacity unquestionable, his reasoning sound and witnessed. They appealed. Lost again. The final judgment came with a warning from the judge. Further frivolous litigation will result in sanctions. They finally stopped. Not because they accepted the will but because lawyers cost money they didn't have. My mother sent one last text. I hope you're happy destroying this family for money. I blocked her number. I wasn't destroying anything. I was building. The foundation. My life. My peace. I drove past my mother's house sometimes, the one she was losing because her lifestyle had been funded by credit and expectations of inheritance. Part of me wanted to feel guilty. Mostly I felt free. I met someone. A teacher who volunteers at the foundation. Her name is Simone. She has kind eyes and laughs at my jokes and doesn't understand families who weaponize love. My parents are annoying, she said once, but they'd never exclude me from Christmas. I kissed her then, grateful for people raised with warmth instead of warfare. I visited Grandpa's grave every Sunday. Told him about the foundation, the kids, the program's expanding to 3 more locations. You were right, I whispered to the headstone. Blood doesn't always mean family. But you were my family. The only one who mattered. The inheritance was never about money. It was about a grandfather's final gift. Permission to walk away from people who hurt me, resources to build the life I deserved, and proof that at least one person believed I was worthy of love without conditions. I never spoke to my mother again. Or my siblings. They became strangers I used to know, people I hoped found peace but couldn't help anymore. I learned that forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. That boundaries aren't cruel. That choosing yourself isn't selfish when others have chosen themselves over you your entire life. The foundation thrived. I thrived. And every day I worked, every kid I helped, every program I funded, I felt Grandpa's presence. His pride. His love. The only inheritance that ever mattered. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe. Share your own family stories in the comments. You're not alone in navigating toxic relationships. And remember, you deserve to be at the table, not waiting in the coffee shop.